I knew she was gonna say something. She is getting ready to introduce a few more caveats to the shows. You
Yes.
might start seeing some people that talk about maintenance, like Tyler Harden and Matt Leffler and other folks out there. You might see some competition about, I mean, conversations about freight tech with
I think we're live again, you
Jamin.
guys. Yeah, it says
Think
I'm
we
live.
are. Think we're
So
good.
we're back. Okay, so for those of you out there for LinkedIn, the question that was asked was, what does everybody think about us going on IG, on Instagram?
What? Yeah.
Maybe
What do you guys think? What do you guys think about that? Is Instagram even cool anymore? Is it all about the tick tock?
No, don't eat.
oh, TikTok. I love
You said it. You said it. No, but even for real though, I wish people would give TikTok a
I
chance
wish
from
they
the
would too.
standpoint of 100%. There's like dancing, whatever. There's like that part of it.
Mhm.
There's some legit, like even down to I've copied some of the cooking stuff I see on there, or some little tips and tricks, even about navigating social media. Or found some tips for fully using an iPhone. It's endless. It's endless. So it's not just a bunch of young goofballs dancing or old ones, but I mean,
Yeah.
there's that.
Like someone just said, I just saw somebody say that they're too old for TikTok. That is not true, Jared.
Yeah, no, old narrative.
Yeah, old narrative is right. You have to push on when you're on
Antonia.
TikTok. You have to open it up and craft the feed how you want it. So you get rid of the teenagers. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you get these amazing creative artists that sing,
Yeah.
they dance, they have makeup. They are just, their minds are so creative. It's
I've been into the painting stuff where they like take that bucket of paint and will like, have it go across the canvas and stuff. Oh, it's endless. You curate it.
man.
got it,
If
Ryan.
you're getting a bunch of young punks dancing on there, that's on you. That means those are the videos you're watching.
Andrew Till, you watch Golden Girls? Dude, I watch Golden Girls, Matlock, Columbo, Price is Right, In the Heat of the Night. Like, dude, I love those shows, man. Golden
What
Girls is
about
what I go to
Frasier?
sleep to.
Ingrid and I are big Andy Griffith show people.
Dude, you don't know nothing about Mayberry.
Yeah.
Okay, I can tell you guys that LinkedIn, Ryan Crawley says, ain't no laws when you're drinking claws. Already like him a lot.
Nice.
And then so here we go. We're gonna try again with LinkedIn. Poor LinkedIn. But everybody's on Zoom. So if you're on LinkedIn, get over to Zoom, you guys. And
Dude,
here, let me
Tyler
put
Harden is
links
on my
in.
case about this Golden Girls stuff. I don't know what I did to him,
Watch the
but
Golden
everyone.
Girls.
Jason says Blanche is where it's at.
Listen, I know you guys like Blanche. I'm a Rose guy, okay? I like Rose. That's my boo. But
Oh man.
nobody ever touches my heart the way the medallion does. Ingrid the Medallion Brown, baby. I
right.
love
One second,
her
you guys.
comments.
I had to pop that comment into LinkedIn. Okay. So, all right, Jade. So here's what happened, you guys, that I want to talk. So I'm good. We have a good number of people on Zoom. So, and this is probably our core Madtropolis group. So it's probably good that we talk with these folks first while LinkedIn figures its crap out. First of all, we started the week with a Madtropolis town meeting where we rolled out the week to you. And then on Tuesday, we had shippers. Wednesday, we had carriers. Thursday, we had brokers. And now we're here today. This was a rollout this week. This was a test for all of us to see how we would do every day and what you guys thought. The goal was, in my mind, is that we started all coming together in Madtropolis.
Yep.
And we were talking so well, the three groups. And it's actually four, right? It's shippers, it's carriers, and it's drivers. And you've got brokers.
That's a good distinction. I forget to look at it that way sometimes. That's legit.
And because I felt it when we were on the carrier show, which I'll get to in just a minute. But you're right, Jamie. So what we wanted to do was that our Madtropolis show was extending out so long because so many people from different groups had something to say. And the viewership remained consistent. And do you guys remember that? Like we kept trying to cut down the show.
Yeah.
1 hour. But our viewership, do you remember, Jamin? Like our viewership would tick up.
Well, something happened in like the 45-minute mark. You get a spike. So it's like, all right, I guess people want to hear more about this, or maybe it's just to swap out of different people. So like
time zones, maybe.
I didn't think of time zone. I think it's the first time you brought that. That might be part of it too. So yeah, tough to condense it down when people want to learn, you know?
And so it's weird that we only have one comment in LinkedIn right now. So there's something real bad going on with LinkedIn. So
And we don't know what that is. Everyone's been experiencing it.
Yeah, everyone's been
Freightways, I've had some buddies who go live. They said it's been janky. So it's not just us. I don't want y'all to think it's us.
Yeah, I'll readily admit if it's me. I mean, it's not
Hey,
going to
Rick,
be good and stuff. But
gotta say, congrats, Lisa Petty. I just saw she's a fellow SoCal dweller and has a bun in the oven. She just let us know. That's awesome.
Oh, wow. She's had a powerful week too. She's
Cassandra Davin says you got a lot of empty cans behind you over there, young lady.
Today has been a very tough day, you guys. It was a lot of strategizing going on today. So that means a lot of drinking. So, okay, so back to the structure, right? So what we decided was that Friday was taking so long and there were so many groups that wanted to talk to things. And then you guys told us in surveys that you wanted a deeper dive into topics. Well, it's really hard to have a deep dive in topics when I've got all 3-4 groups with us. It's hard to go super intense because then you lose some of the audience who doesn't understand a carrier's world or a driver's world as much. So we designed a show for every segment of the industry. So Tuesday was our shipper day, led by Ron King. Let me get Ron. Ron,
we are live on LinkedIn. If you are on LinkedIn, or if you have people on LinkedIn, please like it, comment, and share so that people can see, and the people at Madtropolis
and push people to Zoom because LinkedIn's having some problems for sure.
It is.
So Brian says, I got you, Cass. Kevin says, back for me. Good. So Tuesday, we had our shipper show. Where's Ron? Let's drag Ron on and ask him what he thought. But in the meantime, while I drag Ron on.
Don't bring Ron on if he's not going to dance. I'm telling you now. Ron better give me a shoulder shimmy or something.
So Damon and JD, either one of you, what did you guys think of the show on Tuesday with the shippers?
So what I really dug and kind of forget about sometimes is it was neat to see shippers talking to shippers. Like, that's super unique. It's usually like me talking to a shipper or something like that, more one-on-one. So getting to see them all interact and ask each other questions and share tips was like a glimpse into a scene that I'd never been a part of, really.
Yeah.
Were you impressed with how smart we were?
Are you trying to put me on the spot? No, yeah. No, it actually legitimately, it's just cool to see what matters, right? Like, because sometimes we get siloed and we make up for ourselves in some office at a desk level. This is what they care about. And we start putting the they designation, grouping everyone together. So it was cool to just get to sit back and listen and not try to guess.
Yeah, Ron, what was so you led the discussions, and I think they're only continue to get better. But what were some of the things that you were surprised about? Because I don't know how often do shippers talk to each other, Ron?
Never. And that's actually exactly what I was going to say. I was actually impressed with the fact that nobody came with, I'm from this company, no chips on their shoulder, ready to talk. I made the comment at some point during there that we're as shippers, we're just not good at some things. Nobody got their feelings hurt. Nobody did the, hey, we've got this nailed down. It's kind of like, we know what we suck at, and that's okay. But collectively can actually talk about it and figure it out. And for me, what I think was interesting is I have been blown up this week, but in messages with good stuff, with folks saying that it gives carriers and brokers a better appreciation for when they're at the warehouse and things are going sideways. Now they understand why, hey, this might be going sideways, and there might be some things that they can help. I still hold to the fact that, for every driver that comes into a warehouse I'm working at, they've been to thousands of other warehouses. So they've seen the good and the bad. And if you can teach me things that are good, please let me know about it. And the fact that the panel that you had on, everybody was thinking the same way and talking the same way, I think was really, really interesting. And I get it, this is a bit of a small community, so folks tend to think the same way, but everything starts small until it gets big.
Yeah, that's really well said. I was surprised. I thought that all y'all shippers talk to each other. And I'm wondering often if it's because, this is a big assumption, Ron, and I don't even know if you know the answer, but is it because they're overworked, not given the resources to network?
Good question.
And because somebody said one time, I think it was Tony Burger, Burger Shipper, who now is known as 200 average.
Yeah.
But he said that
He just said in the comments because we're too busy, Tony says.
Yep.
I definitely agree with Tony, especially depending on what level you're in the organization. I think there's actually one added part that sometimes gets overlooked, and I've mentioned it before, that as a supply chain, so I'm counting carriers and shippers and everything else, we don't do a good job collectively talking to each other about anything. So if you're looking at the panel that you had on Tuesday, if I was back and beer never would have talked to any of those people, because beer doesn't get carried on flatbeds and beer doesn't get carried with, the different aspects. You get into your little insular groups and that's what you go to. And if you think about the conventions that all of us have been to, over the years, you go to the ones that are quote unquote most relevant. What I find interesting over the last 2 months, and especially this show, I think there's a hell of a lot of value in going to ones that are not relevant at all, because you can actually learn something, and that doesn't happen. But this is the first platform that's offered that as an opportunity to folks that just wouldn't have had the opportunity before.
Hey, Ron, you got a question out here, and it's from one of our favorites at Madtropolis, Antonia. Antonia says, I think that often the shipping managers do not know the nonsense that goes between their dock workers, drivers, and carriers. Like, is there truly a disconnect there for shippers?
Yeah, there is. And this is going to sound crass. Most managers don't want to deal with the quote unquote bullshit at the dock. It's unfortunate, but usually the folks that are running the dock tend to be kind of tough. I'm sure every driver can talk about that one warehouse they go into who's got, that person running the dock. It's easier not to deal with the shit than to try to get involved, because it's frankly too much drama. And you miss a lot of what's going on. And there's not a real good platform to make sure that you're actually listening to what folks are saying or what kind of things they can actually do to improve stuff. It's a tricky balance. Frankly, that's part of why when I was thinking shipper of choice, that was one of the exact aspects that I was thinking of, that a bad dock coordinator can destroy your reputation faster than almost anything else.
So Ron, how do we connect them though? Like, how do you connect the different shippers that ship out different goods? Because what one of my questions in Cassandra's feed was like, maybe we need to have 0 to 50 million, 50 million to 100 million, 100 million to 500, and 500 and above, or do we need to go even more into the niche and say, okay, you ship flatbed, you ship LTL? Like, how do we bring your group together and unify you guys so that the conversation continues?
I'm going to be the contrarian. I actually think it should be as expanded as possible, because even as a large shipper, I can learn from something small. And I'll use an example from today. I talked to Dan Hatcher on the phone for 30 minutes. The guy's $1 million in spend, which isn't huge, but I learned things talking to him that if I hadn't had that conversation, I wouldn't have learned. If I hadn't spent the time, I wouldn't have been able to put together the post that I had, knowing, hey, wait a minute, this folks, those things happen all the time. And whether I'm talking to, actually Ingrid just posted up with it in the chat, if I didn't have the opportunity to talk to Ingrid, who owns her own company as a driver, I wouldn't be able to do things at a much larger scale. And I think conversely, small companies can learn from large companies, because small companies can avoid the mistakes the large companies made as they got bigger.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome point, because then we can really just cherry pick from each other's different experiences and perspectives and put together our own special blend that's applicable for us and our business. I think that's cool. I like it.
V, Vitali, did I say it right?
You said it perfectly.
Vitali says the Shipper Show is much as an educational program for the rest of us shippers as it is for carriers and brokers tuning it in. He also says, and it's the same for other shows. Definitely a good point. So Ron, what are the different levels if we decide to grow out the shipper side of our entire Madtropolis? What are the different levels or titles that the people
there you go.
to include that I need to target to bring in? Because I saw different ones like shipping manager, and then you have some fancy titles. And I just didn't know, like I have distribution.
Yeah.
Some people
no,
say
I think
supply chain. I'm so confused.
No, that's a fantastic way to look at it, because realistically, and this is going to be terrible, so I don't mean it this way, the way an executive looks at the business is going to look at it different from what a shipping clerk looks at, but they're both
100%.
incredibly important. So I would think of it the way most businesses from the shipping side, you're going to look at the tactical. So the frontline manager, that might be the shipping manager, the transportation manager, that frontline supervisor that is rolling up their sleeves and doing the grunt work.
Yep.
Then you're going to have mid-level, so say up to the director. So they'll probably have direct responsibility for that frontline manager with impact and accountability for the P&L, for the spend. So they won't necessarily make all of the decisions. They'll be held accountable for the results because they have to manage to the results. And then you're going to be talking about an executive level where they have total accountability. But what's different is it's going to be more broad-based. And this is kind of the argument I used to have with the co-op, where I don't spend but a few percentage points a month on freight because I'm dealing with a whole bunch of other stuff, and you've got to be able to understand that. And a lot of the brokers, I think, really want to be talking to that mid-level because those are the decision makers. But the problems they're going to have is going to be at that frontline level, because that's where the drivers are pissed off at the warehouse workers and everything else. But from a strategy standpoint and a business growth standpoint and everything else you're looking at, as an executive, you're accountable to the CEO and CFO, and those are going to be very different decision makers. And at the end of the day, a lot of times shareholders, and that puts you in a much different place. I can still remember the conversation I had with my boss about the carrier co-op. That conversation I had to have was dramatically different than the folks that actually had to go out and execute it for me. I was going to lose my job if it failed. They were just going to get yelled at. So, I mean, it puts different pressures on different individuals at different levels. So that's the way I would think about what you're doing and who you want to talk to, depending on what type of conversation you want to steer.
And I'll challenge those in Madtropolis. I want you to tell us who your favorite shipping managers are, your favorite mid-levels, your favorite executives from a shipper's perspective.
Please.
No offense, but when I see these awards come out where companies are like, here you go, Pepsi, you won the Shipper of the Year award. And I'm like, is it just because they're giving you all their shipments? Like, what does that mean? So I really do want to hear from a lot of the brokers and the carriers.
There's definitely
and the
a lot of pay for
drivers.
play.
Yeah.
I'd love to reverse engineer some of what they're doing. Yeah. 100%.
And pay for play, right, JD? Yeah. And so wouldn't it be nice if, like, especially Ingrid said she has a lot of friends. I'd love to hear from all her friends of where are the best places to deliver? Who are the easiest? Who are the worst? And give us their contact information so we can bring them onto the show and talk
you
to
guys
them.
lead the show. I don't think you guys understand that. And I want to make it very clear. This is a show for the people, by the people. You guys lead the show. So yeah, we have the Godfather. Yeah, we have some other big names that are on the quote unquote executive level, or they've had that tenure like Ron. But we also want to hear from the people who we may not know of, that Ron may not know of. And Ron just openly stated that he just learned something from someone who does $1 million in spend. And Ron has had books of business. What, Ron, over 500 million, over $1 billion of books of business. So, we're looking for the people who want to talk, who want to grow, so that we can understand the entire scale of shippers.
Yes.
Because it's not just $1 billion shippers out there that we need to talk to. There are some shippers out there that do 50 million a year, and they have insight that we need so you guys can grow.
I love that. That was perfect.
Yeah, I dig it.
It was interesting when I'm
It's
trying
the box
to
wine.
The Boda, that's Boda Box wisdom.
It, baby.
Oh man, I do not want to say that that's a Karen drink, but
Oh.
sorry. So it was interesting because I also asked Ron and all the other shippers to tell me who their favorite. All right, Ron, are you ready for this? Because I have something to tell you.
Uh-oh.
So I reached out to everybody and I'm like, tell me who your favorite providers are. Because I want to know their names. Like Ron, he was like, here are my top 4 people that I love for life because they do this and this, they changed my life. He was like, listen out. And then I had other shippers that were like, here are the other few. And I'm no joke, you guys, I'm going to go reach out to those brokers and carriers. And I'm going to say, you've been recommended by shippers. Come on the show and tell us what you're doing. Because we're not saying you're fantastic. The shippers are saying you're fantastic. Share your knowledge. But here's the thing, Ron. I don't know if I should say this out loud.
Well, say it. It's the truth, right?
Everybody gave me the name of a broker.
So why don't they know
I didn't
shippers,
get
Ron?
any carriers.
Like, are you guys are shippers truly so siloed? Like,
No.
is it truly that siloed to where people don't know of you guys? Are you a myth? Are you a legend?
Because,
But you said everybody gave you names of brokers, right?
yeah.
Yes.
No carriers.
Not
I gave you one.
carriers.
I gave you one carrier.
Were they really a carrier though?
She was.
Are you sure? Okay. I thought she was a broker. Hold on.
No, she was a carrier, but that doesn't matter. No, but I think.
And you're the only person who gave me a carrier. Hold on. Now I got
She was last. That's terrible. No, I think it depends. I keep going back to it. It depends on what your strategy is. And I think I answered, I was on something earlier this week. Brokers give me access to carriers I can never touch. And I think that in times like today, the work that brokers do gets treated, from my opinion, gets treated like shit because you're making money off of somebody else's work. And they completely discount the work that you're doing to pass those carriers off to the right shippers. And there's a lot of work and a lot of infrastructure and salesmanship and cold calls. But I would never meet Ingrid if it wasn't for a broker. It would just never, ever happen.
Yeah.
And I am, that is why personally, I'm still a huge fan of the way the business works. There's nothing wrong with being the middleman when the middleman provides a hell of a lot of value.
Yeah. Hold on.
I think
It's gonna drive me nuts now. Go ahead. Sorry, Jamie.
No, I was gonna say to your point, Ron, I think you're spot on. That's where, speaking for the broker world, we've done such a bad job of telling our story and framing up and properly showing the value to the masses. But then you get some good reps like the story you told us. They're coming in, understand the niche, they know their pitch to hit, super good at telling that very specific story of where they bring value. And I think that's a big takeaway I've taken from you and listening to the shippers is that. So I think
So
that's
what makes a shipper?
opportunity.
Like Ron, start me at the bottom, because we got people on here who don't even know what a shipper is. And that's not derogatory.
Actually, that's a valid point.
It's not derogatory.
When I talk about shippers, I'm actually talking about everybody that Ron just listed off, the shipping managers, the executive levels, the folks who are actually dealing with the logistics and transportation. But then there's supply chain, right, Ron? And that's, I feel like that's completely different than what we're talking about.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of businesses and a lot of brokers and carriers are kind of dumb to that. Let's just be honest. But I'll look, we had Chris Langmead from Stone on a couple of weeks ago. Chris has done a fantastic job with Stone. He's director of supply chain. He manages procurement, planning. That's the work he does. There's another individual that does transportation and warehousing. Chris understands the supply chain. So what he's been able to do is realize I'm bringing materials in, and then I've got to move trucks out. So it's in my best interest to make sure the truck comes in and literally moves from one warehouse to the next within my 3 miles to get an outbound load, because that's best cost for me. And I'm taking advantage of the carrier. But that means as a broker, 95% of brokers or carriers that have reached out to me have talked about outbound freight and outbound freight only. Very infrequently do I have hey, I'm a carrier for Ball, and I know you use Ball cans, and I'm going to be coming to San Diego with 18 loads in the next 2 days. Can I talk to somebody about utilizing them? I can avoid empty miles. I can avoid hours. I can do a truck trailer. I can do this. That just doesn't happen real frequently. And everybody on the call that's now going to message me and say, hey, I do that. Great. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about those that don't, and most don't. So that's where supply chain, it's every aspect of bringing things in, converting them to a saleable good and shipping them out. And that might be, I'm bringing in t-shirts and putting screen prints on and putting them on parcel, to I'm bringing in raw metal, turning it into cans. So, I mean,
So is that a shipper? A shipper brings in goods to America, and then you give those goods or loads to carriers and brokers do that? Like, is that what a shipper does? You bring in the goods too? Because the reason why I'm asking this, I've gotten a few inboxes this week from people who are curious as to what is a shipper by definition. What does a shipper do? How does a shipper make profit? So for the people that are on the show that don't have that knowledge, Ron, break it down all the way to 101, shipper 101. What do you do? How do you bring in business? What is your role in
Yeah.
logistics?
Typically for a shipper, the simplest way is we either manufacture or convert. So if you're a manufacturer, you're bringing in the raw materials, you're turning a group of materials into a finished good. And you may do that with one item or 10,000 items, or you convert. I've started with this group of things and I've turned it into that group of things, and then I ship it out. So our profit is typically generated in the goods that we're shipping. And that's where the supply chain can get really, really long. And the easiest one to consider is like the automotive industry. The automotive industry, Ford, ship a car, but I've got to bring in tires and I've got to bring in all the raw materials that turn that into a car. Well, somebody's making the tires and somebody's making the headliners and somebody's making the stereos. And then you take that one step back, because I got to bring in rubber and I got to bring in aluminum and I got to bring in motherboards, and take that another step back because I got to bring in the metal or the plastics that turn the motherboards. And it goes back and back and back and back in supply chain. Those that we're talking about on this show, a lot of times you're moving at any one of those steps. So Tony was talking about flatbeds. And I know Ingrid's talking about moving some of those loads. Those are generally 2 to 3 moves before food and beverage touches them. But
no, that's not it, Ron. That's not what people say. A shipper just has everything all together, and you guys don't have to worry about a supply chain, and you just throw shit on the back of the truck, man. And that your job is easy. What do you mean there's a supply chain, Ron?
No, and so I'm going to make it cans. That seems to be what I talk about all the time. So beer, this. So if you think about, no, this is great. So I can start this.
I like the
this is what me, at an executive level, this is what I worry about. This starts off with 3 major components. It starts off with aluminum that comes out of mines in China that I have to worry about. It comes out of hops that are grown in Yakima Valley, Washington, that I've got to worry about. And then it starts with malt that can come from anywhere from Germany, England to Virginia. Those are the major components that I'm going to start to worry about. Well, the mines ship the ingot into the conversion plants that turn it into aluminum coil. The aluminum coil gets shipped again to the can plants that turns them into, in some plants, cans and ends, in some plants just cans or just ends.
Oh my God.
Then I bring those cans and ends into my brewery and I have a can. Well, that's awesome. I have a can, but I need to make beer. So I've got to bring my hops from Yakima Valley and I got to bring my malt, but you've got to worry about everything going on, because it's not like I don't just order it. 4 years ago up in Yakima Valley, the voles ate a lot of the crop. So that screwed it up, which meant that the distribution portion of it spread out in time and in distance that I had to worry about. There's considerations on aluminum as to when you buy it, because there's the London Metal Exchange and the Midwest Premium. Those are both cost considerations that time when I buy cans. So all these aspects, and this is just a really, at the end of the day, from a supply chain standpoint, this is dead simple. It's quite honestly one of the simplest supply chains you'll deal with.
Wow.
Not dealing with a whole lot of components, not a lot of raw materials, but that's what it takes. Now, if we're going to talk automobiles or planes or building materials, that supply chain gets really, really long. And every one of those touch points within the supply chain is a shipper. So the shipper might be shipping nails, or the shipper might be shipping steel to turn them into nails, or they might be shipping the raw materials to the steel plants to turn it into steel, to then turn it into nails. So that's where those are all shippers. And
so you have up to 30 different points sometimes where your supply chain could go awry with one small minutiae. And now you're sitting here and you're having to figure out, is this going to elongate? Is it going to shorten? Where do I source an additional supplier? Where do I source a different raw material? So basically what you're telling me is it's not just as simple as a cup. It's not just as simple as a can of beer. A can of beer is touched or created by up to what, 10, 15 different companies, if not
Oh
more.
God, yeah. Oh yeah, and some of them you're never going to know who they are. You don't understand what each component of that material is from a time or from a storage standpoint. And that's why if you take a step back and you understand supply chain, the fact that anything is on a shelf with any level of regularity is frankly stunning, because there are so many steps that go into it. Because once I've made this, then I've got to ship it to distributors, and then distributors got to keep it in their inventory, and then they've got to move it to the stores, and they've got to move it to the stores at the right quantities at the right time to ensure that at the end of the day, you can go in and that's available. And it's always available, and I can make sure it's available, but I can't have too much available because then it goes obsolete. You got to throw it away, and that costs money too.
So is that what happened with toilet paper, Ron, earlier this year when the toilet paper craze happened? Are you telling me that you just can't flip a switch and we have an instant replenishment of toilet paper in grocery stores? Are you kidding me?
See, toilet paper is a fascinating one because there's a family member that's a supply chain guy, me, with 4 brothers and sisters who all decided to call me. The news say supply chain.
Your job.
Yeah, like, oh, that's what you do for a living. Yeah, that's what I do for a living. I mean, toilet paper is fascinating because it's really the perfect descriptor with what we're dealing with today. Toilet paper companies, paper companies that make toilet paper don't have excess capacity, because there's no reason to have excess capacity, because capacity is expensive. And at the end of the day, Americans generally shit the same amount every day. It doesn't change dramatically, except maybe after Mardi Gras, the Super Bowl. So it's always the same. So they know how much to make. Their capacity is constrained. The problem became there's 2 types of toilet paper, the home and then the business. So the big giant rolls, those aren't made in the same factories.
Yep.
When people stop going to restaurants, all of a sudden they're going at home. They can't automatically go, crap, start making the little ones, because they're completely different machines. They're completely different raw materials. That long chain is completely different. So that's why they had to start suddenly turn. And then us ignorant Americans decided, for some reason, because we're home and COVID-19, that I now need 900 rolls of toilet paper versus the 32 that I would buy every 2 months anyway.
Oh,
It's
man.
interesting because it took me a while to understand that shift between retail, the consumers, and the wholesale use of each product. Because remember, there were a lot of farmers who were just disposing of goods, and we're like, why don't they just send it to the grocery stores, or why aren't they sending it to blah blah blah? Well, it's packaging, and
That's the problem.
and it was very interesting to hear. I just so simple-minded. I didn't even think of that. So let's switch. Let's give Ron a break. Ron, you were fucking awesome.
Ron.
That was awesome. And
Ron, you should look at the comments because people loved you. Sorry, Jamin.
No, I was going to say Brendan Dawson, who has one of the coolest LinkedIn titles. He's a dragon slayer. He said he liked your explanation so much you should do a children's book, a simplified supply. I actually think that's not a bad idea, sincerely, especially because supply chain's sexy right now.
Maybe there already are those children books, and I think you said that your kids or your family members are getting in. Daughter's in supply chain, isn't she?
Yep.
In logistics.
Yep.
He was reading books to her at night.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Ron. I'm going to pop you back into the audience because I want to talk about carriers and brokers real quick, and flag us, Ron, if you have something else to say, because you're always welcome. No,
I love that, because guys, the reason why what Ron's explanation just showed you is there is so much that goes into being a shipper, just to make sure that they have something to give a broker to actual broker. Now, what will really mess your mind up is if I went into the fact that all of those shippers and all those raw materials that are moving and those loads that require to move those, what happens when maintenance pops up? What happens when a tire pops? What happens when an air hose goes out? What happens when a brake seal leaks? What happens when an engine locks up? Now we're sitting here and you could have one of your drivers literally on the road for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours if they don't have appropriate breakdown support. These are all the small little pieces and daily occurrences, to Judy's point down there, that happen that you're not privy to. You just go to the store and you go grab a box of cereal. You have no clue what it took for that box of cereal to get to you. And that is what Cassandra's been harping on for the past 2 years, trying to educate everyone on what is the process of actually just moving sources and goods, folks. It's not as simple as you think. it's a lot that goes into this. So I'm excited about this conversation today.
Can I ask you and Jamin a weird, stupid lawyer question, maybe because I'm just an outsider?
Heck yeah. Heck
I
yeah.
don't. No, you can ask Jamie. Don't ask me because your last question
got
to me
you.
got me. No, ask Jamie. No.
Okay, that was fair. That was
No.
a very sneaky question of Cassandra. Why, whenever I see anything that says supply chain with regards to educational material, speakers, even the people on LinkedIn that say that they're a supply chain extra expert, blah blah blah, do they talk? I feel like they skip over all of us.
You know, it's fascinating. And so I've started to really intentionally go, how do I say this, go over to the supply chain side and try to learn it, because I started to realize it just very much myself. It's not separate worlds, but it's separate worlds, and it shouldn't be. I mean, everything, like Ron just explained it perfectly, that's connected. We're all so connected. Things that are going down in China, or if bulls are eating too much in Washington, that affects me, very basic transportation guy at the dock level. So I want to know it all. And I think so. I don't know where it happened, when it happened. It's almost like this elevated supply chain is, and this is just perception based, right? It's not reality, but supply chain is more fancy and worldly.
Chris Martin just said it. Hashtag supply chain sexy.
Yeah, that's what I like. Yeah.
That's exactly what you're saying. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're totally good. So I think we transportation and logistics people have kind of stayed in our silo, stayed in our box, stayed in North America, and not ventured over to that side. They use different links, different word, and then also vice versa. And I can't totally put my finger on why. And I've started to venture over into the supply chain side. And
you are going over to some of the thought leaders over in supply chain.
Are
they talking about our stuff? Do they talk about logistics and transportation?
And we've actually talked about, they don't necessarily in there every day, right? But now we're starting to, as we're taking in more, starting to, I see you. And they're like, oh, I see you, kind of thing. So,
how did they talk about, what do they talk about if they're not talking about trucks, trains, and planes?
Well, it becomes, the conversation is much more supply, demand, and downstream and upstream conversations. It's just way more up here.
Like economics and packaging?
Yeah, all that, the type of outside pieces to it. Not necessarily literally where the rubber meets the road, just because you could see, talking about that chain, if you talk about each and every part, I mean, it would become, it would almost be complicated, if you will. But we could definitely have a better understanding, both sides. 100% is what I'm learning for myself, and then in conversations with supply chain folks, they're like, oh, okay, this is good to know. So I think that's what we're doing here, just going out further and further of, man, and I don't mean this in the cheesy way, we're all in this together. Like it all.
No, you have to be in this together. So Tyler Robinson,
really
the
not,
CEO of Diesel,
together.
They're not in it together.
You know what I mean?
Like, problem.
I see what you're saying, but then I'm like, wait a second, but they're not, because we don't know what the fuck they're talking about on these supply chain topics.
But that's
what we're talking about now.
Yeah, but those are both of us making choices to not figure it out. But we're connected whether we like it or not. We're in it together whether we work together. Now that becomes the
but I don't know why they don't, because
we don't either.
Yeah, Andrew Teal, you're right.
But no, Tyler Robertson, the CEO of Diesel Laptops, when all of this COVID stuff started happening, he was talking to me and he was like, hey, something's going on with my supply chain. He says, I have Chinese suppliers and I don't know what's happening, but we're not getting our stuff on time, and they're starting to say delays. And he was telling me that back in the beginning of December. His supply chain was being disrupted in the beginning of December because folks in China were already starting to call out sick, and plants were starting to semi-shut down because of the sickness. So he was already being disrupted. So you have to understand, folks, that we have to work together, and that's why visibility, transparency, and communication are the biggest damn thing.
Yeah.
If you're gonna be a broker, give me my soapbox about 2 more minutes. If you're gonna be a damn broker, you better be the best communicator you can freaking be. Because I'm tired of you saying that you're a brokerage, and a broker is 2 arms. One arm goes to shipper, one arm goes to carrier. If you can't be a damn communicator, you're not a broker. Shippers, If you can't give me transparency into when your raw materials and your fixed goods are going to be ready for the carrier and the broker to broker that load and the carrier to carry it, sit down and shut up. When it comes to carriers, shut up about these brokerages and these rates and all of this stuff, talking about 57 cents a mile. We talked about it to appease you, but damn it, if you don't want a deadhead, take the damn lane and shut up. And if it's too cheap for you, shut up and don't take the lane. I'm sick of it. We all work together. If we don't have visibility, if I don't have communication and transparency into shit, then shut up. If you don't understand that maintenance is a big part, brokers, shippers, and carriers, and a truck can break down and be down on the side of the road for 2 hours because of a pop tire or air hose, shut up. I'm sick of it. Like, I don't know if it's the box wine or if I don't know what it is today, but God dang it, I am tired of it. It is no longer time for no more communication. If you're not communicating, you're not being transparent, and if you're not giving visibility into your shit, then you aren't doing your damn job. Don't tell me you're a professional if you're not going to communicate. I'm sick of it.
Communication's important. That's what I took.
Soapbox is done. I apologize because I am when I tell you that it just grinds my gears, you just rub. It's like somebody sandpaper in my butt. I am sick of it. Okay, you have to talk. You have to give communication. And the issue that we've ran into in the transportation for the past 20 years, 10, 15, 5 years, is that all of us are siloed and we aren't talking to each other. And we think we're hot shit because in our little silo, we think we're something. We think we're somebody. You think you just the best thing since sliced bread. And you think your shit don't stink. Well, let me tell you something. It stank. So you better start communicating so that we can all help each other. I'm sick of it. Soapbox, I'm done.
No,
I'm done.
Well, I'd say I agree. Communication is important, but something that you said is like, we each have, and that's what's cool about, right? Like, this isn't regarding the people that are here listening. We're those who are on here with us, like, we're all the solution piece. And so these are things we can, take to people on the outside who might be silencing themselves off, but we each have a responsibility to participate and to learn, right? Like, there's stuff I'll speak for myself. There's stuff I don't know about supply chain. And I realized that I was making a decision to silo myself off. Cool, go over and learn. I don't know much of anything about maintenance, right? That is a big part of what, that comes into my daily life. How have I been ignoring it? Like, so now, okay, cool, I want to learn. So I think just putting in our consciousness of, you don't have to be an expert in everything that touches you, but damn, it makes you more,
you don't have to be an expert.
Can you hear me, Gus?
I can hear you, and I'm sorry I blew your headset out. But that's
literally, I had to switch. You broke it. You broke it. And I just want you to know that Andrew Teal says that he really wish you'd stop beating around the bush and tell us what you want. I think that was sarcasm.
Guys,
you broke my headset.
Here's the reason why I'm so passionate about this. You got people like Dave Murphy, Wayne Craig, Ingrid Brown out there that are getting penalized as owner operators for maintenance issues when they break down, and they get fined because the load doesn't get there on time. I get upset because when I'm looking at other carriers that are dealing with that, when it comes to supply chain, you guys are not having empathy, and all you're thinking about is yourself. And honestly, a lot of people in transportation have turned into these selfish, self-righteous, narcissistic people. And I'm not understanding why. Like, why are you not working together? Why are we not coming together as the logistics and transportation industry and saying, guys, hey, I get it. You broke down. I'm going to do my best to help you do a cargo load swap, and we're going to get that load there together. Let me figure this out with you. I don't get why we're not working together, Cassandra. We keep pointing the finger, but my dad and my grandpa always said, you point the finger here, you got 3 fingers pointing back at you. So judge yourself 3 times as hard before you judge somebody else 1 time. I'm sick of it. If we're going to work together or shut up. Okay, I'm done. I'm sorry. I'm done.
But I think we all share blame. Yeah.
Okay, just checking he didn't break this headset too.
I think we're all
Ron says, how do you take care of the shipper when the carrier breaks down? Wait, get fucking Ron back in here.
That's a good question, Ron.
That's
a good question.
Because we just went on another rant. We might as well hold on. Wait, where did he go? Everything's broken. You broke everything.
Guys, I'm sorry, but I've got.
You're getting a lot of thumbs up and hearts on LinkedIn. And those of you on LinkedIn, you guys come over to.
Oh, we're up on LinkedIn. I kind of, to be honest with you, Sorry, LinkedIn.
Yeah, oh yeah, the chats and the hearts have been going nuts on LinkedIn. And for those of you who are on LinkedIn, come over to Zoom. My link, look for my name. I put the Zoom link in there because LinkedIn's really weird this week, you guys. Ron, we pushed you off too early. We needed you back.
My man Ron, you guys don't know how much me and Ron we go back and forth because it is always a little stab here, a little poke there, but I think his question's good. But Ron, ask the question for the people to hear.
And Teal, you can come on too. I mean, any of these guys, you guys just raise your hand if you want to come on. I mean, this is open mic season.
Yes,
Clearly,
Madtropolis,
JD just proved
Madtropolis
that.
is the guest. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Broke my damn headset. I'll be back.
Wait, unmute Ron before you go. Oh
Uh-oh.
crap! I can't.
Is that
There we
better?
go, Ron.
Oh,
Yeah.
there we go. Yeah.
Sorry. No, what was interesting is I heard you talking about the, taking care of the driver when they blow a belt or blow a tire or anything else. I agree. And you should, but and I'm pointing you as an industry, not you necessarily. You as an industry collectively do an absolutely shitty job of owning that and fixing it when it comes to my end. Because too many times I'm in a warehouse and you got a 10 o'clock appointment and it's 11:35 and I'm like, what the hell's going on? Hey, go call. Yeah, we're trying to track them down. And I can tell you how many times that you're not tracking shit down. You know exactly what went going on and you're not telling me what went on.
Yes.
So
Not a lot of transparency or communication,
None.
right? Like that's,
none. And it's, and I think I was on a different webinar earlier today and I was talking about where Amazon, like them or loathe them, and it doesn't matter. The one thing they've done fantastically through COVID-19 is they told us up front that if you're on Amazon Prime, well, screw you. Everything that's not essential is getting pushed out.
Yes,
Deal
they
with
did.
it. And I just ordered something this week. They told me I would get it in a month. 2 days later, they said, you know what? It's changed. You're going to get it in 2 weeks. And then the day before it arrived, I said, you're actually getting it tomorrow. But they were completely transparent. And I've had it on the other side where it's like, remember we promised this on Thursday? Yeah, we changed our mind. It's going to be July. And I can be unhappy, but at least I know what's going on, or at least from a timing, where I don't begrudge Ingrid blowing a tire. I begrudge Ingrid blowing a tire when I'm delivering to Walmart and Walmart fines me if you show up more than an hour late, and Walmart fines me $500 and I didn't know what was going on. And I've gone on my rants about
You want Ingrid to tell you, hey,
I don't have
got
a
a blown tire.
No, because I don't have a relationship with Ingrid. That's why I have brokers.
it's on the broker.
So
Oh,
she
now
needs to
they
talk
want
to the
brokers.
broker,
Or
and the
what-
broker needs to communicate to you.
Or find a replacement.
Okay, so
That's what
tractor
the good brokers
swap,
would do.
cargo swap.
Good
Yeah,
brokers would come up with a solution.
Yeah.
Repower. Yeah.
Or even has
Repower.
to
Yeah,
deal with it.
it falls onto why is your problem suddenly my problem? And too often that's exactly
Maybe
what
Ron, because
You
it's
know-
your fucking goods that you're shipping.
Yeah, Nicole made actually a point about this on yesterday's show that I thought was cool, of why she turns away some business in certain areas as a broker, because she doesn't have the ability to repower if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
So that's already,
Thomas Smiley just said good brokers will repower and let the customer know they're doing it as soon as
and
possible.
Thomas is one of the good ones that gets it. That's not always the norm, but immediately, even before you have business, go after business that you have some sort of density or niche. I'll just keep going back to what I've really learned from the shippers, where you can take care of things and everything that could go wrong and sideways and whatever. So that's a good point. Don't get out over your skis.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to put it. I think as brand owners, those of us that sell goods to somebody, whether you're selling raw materials, you're dealing with a direct customer that's required to have that thing at their hands at certain points in time. And that changes the way you're looking at things. And that's where it really becomes critical to just move it to there, And
Ron,
I think
do you not get ETA transparency at all? Like,
I
are
don't
you
want
telling me that you work?
No,
with
I don't
brokers?
want it.
Yeah, can you imagine that on every single load?
I don't want it. No, that's it. It's exactly what Jamie just said.
You'd
So
be
do you
I
want
am
a
the outlier.
broker?
No, I'm the outlier. And I realized that a lot of freight companies sell the app or the website or the portal or all the other things where I can track it. And I get it. Some shippers are going to be like, that's awesome. I want to look at it. Me, I never want to look at it because that's what your job is. Tell me when there's an exception.
Ooh.
I'll deal with the exception, but I do not have the time or energy to track, even if it was just one load. I don't send a package to my sister and then try to follow it every step along the way. It's like, UPS has got it. And if it shows up late, I'll go deal with it. But I got other stuff to deal with.
All the shippers on the call right now are all agreeing with you and giving you the thumbs up. And
Oh,
Andrew,
good.
did you guys see Andrew's comment? Oh shoot, where is it? He says repower as a broker is harder than asset, which is one of the reasons why some, not all, but some shippers require asset only, because a broker utilizing a 1 to 5 truck operation, it's harder
That's
to
true.
repower.
It's harder, but
That's
I'll push back.
interesting.
I'll push back a little on that. What I have
Okay.
found in my experience is that the relationships where they will run power only and do interline trailer agreements and that type of deal, they're a little more off the radar because they're busy a lot. So you have to be super intentional about starting those relationships. They're out there, but you're not going to really find them on the load boards and things the same way that you would find a truck and trailer setup. So it takes a little more work, a little more digging, a little more of that relationship development over time. But again, that's why if you know your pitch to hit, know your lanes, if you will, or your areas, you can have as a broker some. In fact, I'd almost argue you be more nimble, right? Because then you're not beholden to just one set
Damn,
of
that's a really good
power.
point. Nicole B, what's up, girl?
Hey guys.
Hey,
Love you to
Nicole.
pieces. How was your week?
Oh fuck. Excuse me. I have 2 drinks in already,
Someone
and
else
it's
is-
the middle
me
of the
too.
day.
Where's my
So
other drink?
it was a
too.
rough one. I want to jump in because I think that the thing is like brokers can recover a load rather quickly in a lot of situations, especially if they're willing to take a loss. Is it worth the customer relationship to take a loss because your truck fell off, or are you
Nicole,
going to fail
can't
your
take
customer?
losses.
No,
can't
okay,
take
let's
losses as a
talk about
brokerage.
that. Ron, can you give us the truth when I ask you this question? Do often shippers use brokers? Because I know brokers will take a loss for a lot of stuff carriers won't.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it'd be foolish to say otherwise because brokers will, by definition, probably get a bigger part of the network and can get, depending on what the hell's going on, they're going to manage their total profit margin across the business. But I don't have very much, actually, I don't have any sympathy for a broker saying, I've got to take this lane at a loss. I'm like, then don't take it. Like, I don't care, but you don't take it.
No,
you're not gonna get this
because
stuff.
Ron, you won't give us the business later on.
Exactly. Don't take
Stinker.
it.
But you have a lot of brokers that, I've heard this before, they stick that maintenance cost on the carrier, and I know everyone's saying, oh, it's the carrier's responsibility, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, that was
But-
bullshit. Whoever said that just didn't know what you were getting at, JD. That was
It's
a
the
really
carrier-
intelligent post.
Ooh, oh my God, it's just the carrier responsibility for that. The broker brokered the load. My truck is on that lane because you brokered that load and because I accepted it. You can help me ensure that we honor the shipper's request and get the load there on time. That is a fact. Ron just said, I don't want to hear about why it's not going to be there. I don't want to hear about the ETA messing up. You just better make sure it's there on time. So brokers, if that carrier accepted that load, it would do you some value to have a relationship with your carrier to say, hey, carrier, we're going to make sure that we take care of Ron. But brokers, you guys aren't doing that. You know what some of you are doing? You'd rather hide it, not only from Ron, but you'd rather hide it and act like the lane is okay. And it's gonna get there. It's gonna get there. No, we got deadlines to meet. We have a supply chain to keep upheld. We have people that are waiting on goods and processes, and you guys are just trying to make sure that you can keep the amount of profit that you want. Sometimes, like Nicole said, take the damn loss to save the relationship.
Nicole, did you watch any of the shows this week? I can't remember if I saw your name. I know you're
I
busy.
have not. I
Okay,
have been
just checking.
so busy. I'm sorry. I want to. I'm so excited you guys are doing more.
No, yeah. And that we gotta talk about soon too. So I want to bring up the Carrier Show, and anybody who watched the Carrier Show, please raise your hand if you want to say something. Whoa, wait a second. We might need to go back to this topic because there's a whole bunch of people raising their hands. Promote to panelist.
Because people are upset about this, and I mean, I know I didn't mean to blow out Cassandra's headphones. I'll
did.
buy her another set, but damn it, we gotta talk about this. Like,
Also, we've agreed, JD, that you need to keep your Boda box.
That Boda box life. it just be hitting different, huh, JD?
it is truly hitting me different today. But the thing is, and Ron kind of started this. It's kind of Ron's fault in a good way.
Yeah, let's blame
Ron
that
is
on.
very passionate about taking care of his people internally and also externally. and he does his damnedest to understand his full supply chain, as you heard from him earlier on this show. What I am not happy about is that there are many brokers and carriers out there who aren't doing the same as Ron, who do not understand their supply chain and can actually fluently converse it or understand it or comprehend it. So when you do that, Ron has a natural empathy towards his supply chain because he knows that at any small piece and point, something can go awry, and he has to then fix that awryness to be a better shipper. What are you doing to fix things that go awry on your brokerage or carrier to make sure that you're a better broker and a carrier? I challenge you to be a Ron, but in your own niche.
All right. So who's first? Jess, hold on. Jess, we haven't heard. Oh, wait. I just saw Ron raise his hand too.
No, I scratched my nose.
Oh, you scratched your nose. Or were you giving me the finger?
Maybe, but it did involve my nose.
Okay, Chris, you gotta, hold on, let me unmute you. I think you have some wind going on in the background.
Chris, what's up?
What's going on, guys? How are you?
Go.
Hey.
All right. So kind of to JD's point with this, interchange insurance is not difficult to have for a brokerage. Every broker should have interchange insurance, plain and simple. This is because trucks do break down in transit. And this is something that...
Who's windy? Jess. It's
Hello?
Jess. Okay.
And this
Go
is
ahead.
something that is on rate confirmations, depending on how hot the shipment is. Like if this is a production shutdown load, stuff like that, you have that listed on the rate confirmation that you must carry trailer interchange insurance, because if something does happen, we need to repower this trailer. If this is production shutdown for Monster Energy, I will spend $10,000 to keep that relationship. I do not care about the truck. I will pay that driver, the recovery driver, to bring it to the nearest truck stop. This is stuff that's talked about prior to even booking the load, so everybody knows about it. If you break down on the way to the shipper, you're off the load. I'm sorry that you broke down, but I have to protect my relationship. This is just...
Wait. Okay, so what do we mean by interchange insurance? Do you actually mean like trailer
Let's talk
interchange?
about
Yes. So
Okay,
I can
so
send in a
trailer
power...
interchange, in my experience,
Mhm.
only covers when a trailer is damaged. That's it. Just the trailer.
So with my experience with it, interchange insurance covers just the cargo in the trailer itself. So we can send in a power unit to repower the trailer to bring it down to the receiver.
That's been my experience as well. Don't know if that's correct.
Yeah,
but
that's just the way I was trained.
Who owns the load if it's stolen?
That's a good question.
Because interchange doesn't
Yeah,
usually.
That's why I asked.
Interchange
That's why I'm
doesn't
asking.
cover cargo. It won't
Having
cover
had
cargo.
loads stolen.
So it'd be the broker because I actually had a situation like that, and to be honest with you, as a broker we had to pay it out for the cargo.
Yeah,
I've
because
had-
usually interchange will only cover the physical nature of the trailer or anything that the trailer is jammed into or bumped into. And it's cheap insurance too, but everything else we're talking about here is cargo insurance. And then if you're talking about breakdown coverage, which you might not be, I don't know.
So
Go ahead.
I was going to say it was mostly so in my situation or in my experience with this, as the broker, my cargo insurance covers the cargo, and then the carrier, the power unit, they have the interchange insurance as well to cover any trailer damage that comes about.
Not every
So
carrier has interchange.
for sure.
And,
sure.
and
And
it actually is a very few, at least in my experience, it's a very few that have interchange. It's usually those who are intermodal because their trailers are being moved around
Mhm.
different people's lots. Let's see. Let me just see if anybody in the comments.
Yeah, Chris Treiber, it's awesome. He's saying, my understanding was a little incorrect. Trailer interchange, like you guys were saying, covers the trailer, and then typically carriers that move power only will have it.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's when I've used it, just with power only. But
Mhm.
they'll have trailer interchange plus cargo. So
Yeah,
two
Jonathan Trimble, you're right. It's an interchange agreement. Usually when I use an interchange agreement, I require the carrier to also have interchange coverage. But you guys, it's super cheap. It's only for like $25,000. It doesn't cover anything else except for the trailer,
Mhm.
unless some insurance broker is going to get on here and challenge me.
You got
Everyone
Matt Henning
else.
in there saying, Matt Henning is saying trailer interchange insurance provides physical damage insurance for trailers being pulled under a trailer interchange agreement. This is essentially physical damage insurance for non-owned trailers. This insurance
there you go.
protects you if the trailer is damaged by
There you
collision,
go.
fire,
Thank you, Henning.
theft, explosion, or vandalism.
But not the cargo inside. So the cargo inside is a carrier's cargo insurance. So just wanted, Jamin's nodding his head, so I think he's totally with me on that.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to confuse the crowd because there's a fuck ton of confusion with insurance, and I love insurance. I'm very passionate about this topic. I know what coverage is. I love it. And so then it tweaks my mind.
Matt Henning said we could take his explanation of the bank. It comes straight from Flo at Progressive. So it's it's money.
Antonia.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys, we have Antonia.
That's my Antonia.
Oh boy, here we go.
Hey, listen, I didn't catch the broker coverage on Thursday because I was driving all day.
All right.
Congratulations.
But I did catch the shippers, which was very informative for me, and of course the carriers meeting. I just wanted to contribute a little bit to the overall conversation on supply chain and what I feel is the carrier's responsibility. As a new carrier, done tons of research and driven for other people, but I really feel that a carrier is just as responsible for preparing to move that load and make sure it gets from point A to point B as anyone else in that chain. Like today, I'm going to go pick up a load of onions. Never moved onions before. So don't you think I asked a lot of questions about how that
Good job.
Yeah, like
You took responsibility, yeah, and to educate yourself. That's legit.
I
Make
checked
sure
to make sure that I wasn't going to run through any thunderstorms between here and Michigan in the next 3 days. You know, just a little homework.
Good
It's
job.
of preparing before I go put a load on my truck and say, yeah, I can get this to Grand Rapids by Tuesday morning. That's all.
David says clean that trailer after onions, but I
Yeah.
think she's running flatbed, David.
Hey, Cassandra,
Antonia, you're running flatbed, right?
Cassandra, can you take Jess off the call because I don't think Jess knows how I feel about people being on the beach and palm trees when I'm in Texas.
I get yelled at about that all the time.
Yeah.
You do you, Jess. I love it.
No, Jess, I don't know. If I can't be on the beach with my toes in the sand, can't nobody be on the beach with my toes in the
Oh,
sand.
wait,
So,
hold on. Let's hold on.
You're
She's
too
got-
drunk to be to the beach.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry, Jess. Don't be sorry. So, Jess, she
I've
really
actually been
beat you guys.
listening for a couple of days now. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
and I remember seeing your name. You had very good comments.
Yes, I work with the Evans network of companies. I don't know if any of you have heard about it. I did put the link in the LinkedIn before I switched over to Zoom. It's evansdelivery.com. They would be a carrier, a broker, all that in one. I don't know if any of you have worked with them before.
Wait, girl, we don't talk about companies.
We're people. We're people, not logos.
We're definitely not beaches either. So tell us what your educational point is, not about your company. We don't give a damn about your company.
I actually work with the technology, upgrading all the drivers and upgrading all of their technology and getting them to use the technology on hand. They hate me most of the time. A lot of them are like, why can't I have little you in my truck to do all this for me? And I'm like, because you can't. I got to do other things.
And that's why you were so passionate when I started talking about e-bill of ladings, which we're going to talk about sooner or later.
Yes,
I'm very passionate.
about all of that.
All right, I'm going to put you on hold for a minute. Okay, so here's the thing. Let's go back to I'm going to move my folks back into attendee status.
Chandler just said, is this a Jess commercial? You know how Chandler feels about off-topic stuff. He doesn't like us to go off topic often. So Chandler's List, we are apologizing.
Yes. No, I don't apologize to Chandler's List. He's playing with my family right now and censoring me. So, okay, I guess we'll just keep her on here because we keep ending up.
EBOLs were a hot topic over LinkedIn this week. Hot topic in other areas too from Peter Lippy.
Peter,
Let's
I'm
talk
losing
about
my mind on
EBOLs.
EBOLs.
That track shoot looks like it came from Hot Topic.
Dude, this is a Perry Ellis 1994.
Easy.
Dude, this is a 90s rendition of a tracksuit. I love it. I love it.
Okay. Yeah, somebody, we're gonna have to smack Jess down. I didn't realize she was so new to Madtropolis that she didn't know you're not allowed to talk about companies on this show.
It's okay.
Unless you're keeping the lights on here at Madtropolis, you better keep your mouth shut about your company.
Well, and it's even a bigger purpose than that. And this is where I can't live up to JD level rants, but it's like, if we really can just get past being, the logo, that's not who we are. And that's not even indicative of our full experience, right? I think Andrew Teal mentioned this earlier. We've worked at different places of different sizes. So the coolest way to bring all that experience together and educate each other is just stay focused on us, the people. That's where we'll get the most benefit.
I agree. So we had the carrier show where we also had, and anybody
was a
who's seen
good
the carrier
show.
show, that was. And
good show.
JD, you guys did not go on too big of a rant on the Carrier show.
didn't.
He was pretty calm. But I'll tell you guys, anybody who watched it and wants to say something, raise your hand for sure. And we'll try to keep an eye out for it. But
Who do we have on the show, Cassandra?
we had Brian, who's the CEO of Jetco and an EVP of the GTI group, which we don't say
It's a
their
big
names,
group.
but you guys,
Yeah.
he's took the time to come on.
He did.
And he seemed like he was trying to help us. But this is where I really saw Madtropolis, and I'm going to need Madtropolis's help. And JD already identified this yesterday on a post where we actually have 4 segments.
Yeah.
We have shippers. We actually might have 5 segments of the industry. We have
I think it's
shippers,
6.
carriers. Oh, fuck, 6. Shippers, carriers, drivers, brokers, supply chain, whatever the hell that means, and maintenance. So now we got 6, which I can't expand this industry. I don't have that much time. It's already taken sun up to sundown to keep things going, but that's 6 segments. So we brought in the Carrier show. We had a major carrier on the show and an executive. We had a wonderful truck driver named Clinton. And then we had Steve Jarozinski, who was our maintenance expert, who I love. So what was really interesting, Ron, and I know you were busy that day, but the maintenance part was the most interesting to me because we don't get a lot of time to talk about maintenance on the show. And we do need to dedicate more time to that. He was telling us, Ron, that when Steve Jarozinski works for Schneider, one of my favorite companies in the whole world. And he told me that when COVID started, there was an increase in demand for shields between the driver and the passenger
Yep.
to help them with training and whatnot. And then the second big point he said that was super interesting is that maintenance was heavily impacted by COVID because tractors came in that needed to be repaired and they had to sit on quarantine.
Yes. Put me in the game, coach. Put me in the game, coach.
And another one we left off. Kevin Nolan brought up, and Nicole Glenn endorsed it too. Needs finance.
Yeah, that's a big point.
Risk?
Finance is a big point.
Dang, risk. Which
Risk management.
That's 7 now because risk is integrated though. You can integrate risk within each segment because risk is insurance, safety, finance, legal, and that's it. HR. But you can ingrain each of those into each segment. So that's why I only kept it 6.
So here's why the trailers were sitting, guys. So when COVID happened, you have to realize that truck drivers were deemed essential, but also anybody supporting truck drivers were deemed essential. So within our vendor network or within anyone's service provider network, you had a lot of those people out there that are hard repair shops, mobile repair guys, diagnostic guys. You had your tow repair companies. These folks were making decisions. Some of them are family ran. So some of them were saying, hey, I don't want to risk my dad. I don't want to risk my mom. I don't want to risk my brother. So we're going to shut down during this period because a lot of them make the majority of their money in maintenance when they're mom and pops. The majority of them make their money during the winter time. During the time that Ron talks about a lot, Christmas time, when trucks are sliding on ice and when you're having these big loads having accidents, that's when they make their money. So they were saying, I'm going to shut down. So you now have trucks that are breaking down that don't have the availability to have the exposure to a maintenance or a mobile repair guy or someone to come out and actually fix it. That elongated maintenance time was messing with Ron's shipments. It was messing with brokers' lanes because when these guys are broken down, what used to take 2-3 hours to actually fix that breakdown, it was taking 6-8 hours. Now, we can still manage that by having a great service provider network, but don't forget that a breakdown could take up to 4 companies touching it. A tow company, a mobile repair company, a diagnostic company, and even a heavy duty repair shop. So you don't know what happens with that load when somebody has an accident or a breakdown. Do I have to do a cargo swap? Do I have to do a tractor trailer combo tow? What do I have to do to get that load there on time? I'm almost getting there. I'm almost done because people don't understand about maintenance. But I'm telling you guys,
someone take his Karen Boda box away from
your life up.
We need a Karen Boda box t-shirt. I have like a list of t-shirts that I need, and Karen's Boda box is on there now.
Guys, please make sure he has one of those moving forward. So anything, Jamin, anything else do you remember from the Carrier show
You know, for me, it stood out, and it was more in comments and just understanding my own limitation and mindset. I put carriers in a singular bucket on accident all the stinking time, and I forget, even aside from the size of carriers, right? You got driver and you have, you know, companies type carriers. And so that distinction of owner operator or company drivers, I forget about it all the time. So it was a good reminder. It was a good reminder for me.
And we can see it still. We needed more representation of the drivers on the carrier show.
Yeah, we do.
And in 2 weeks, you guys, we will have Shelly Simpson. She will join us on the carrier
JB
show.
Hunt.
But I want to make sure that I stack up the drivers too, because when you get an executive like Ron and Shelly in the house and Doug, we got to make sure that we also have everybody else represented as well, because then
they want digital brokers, Cassandra.
What'd you say?
Jonathan just said he wants to know if we're going to have a digital brokers show.
I want to know what a real digital broker is, because most brokers out there. Yeah, what is digital? Now I'm getting real close to a rant, because if you go into most digital brokers and close your eyes, guess what it freaking sounds like?
What is it?
It sounds like a traditional broker.
That's what a broker is.
Yeah, you go onto DAT and you go onto Truck Stop and you can look who's listed out there. And a lot of these digital brokers are ones who have their own platform. Guess who are posting out a ton of loads out there. So it's still, you know, there's a lot of, I am fascinated.
Jonathan, let's keep pushing him.
No, like, Jamin, they want to see you get pumped up, Jamin. No. People are in there saying, get fired up. Let's go, Jamin.
That's me fired up. That's me fired up. It's like, I actually want to know, hear from people, because I hear from people that call themselves a digital brokerage, and you start peeling it back. And it's not a bad thing, right? But it operates on the back end super similar to traditional. That's why I think we, as a brokerage industry, have not been disrupted yet by any means, as there's not been.
What do they consider a digital broker? Like, what is considered a digital broker versus a traditional broker? And why would we have people down there saying that a digital broker is automation? Like, what is this, Jamin?
So, well, one, I don't think it's clear to define, right? Because you'll get, especially anyone that gets any kind of sales calls from a broker, will hear everyone's a digital broker. Like, what really is digital, right? I send you loads on email. That's digital, right? I send you quotes back on it. So really, I think we could define that, and how end to end, what an order looks like as it runs through a brokerage. How does it find its way to their partner carriers? How, you know, and on and on. So I think there's a lot there to examine to really be able to define, to see who truly is a digital brokerage, and is that even the right term? I mean, now I know it's the term that's taken on, but yeah, it's so
like, I know global freight matching is what a lot of people want to move toward and what they're heading toward. Ron's kind of blown that up a couple times on different shows, that idea at least. I mean, in the LTL world, sure, go for it. But in the OTR world,
but even
people saying JB Hunt trying to become a digital broker. You got people saying Coyote is trying to become a digital broker. Like,
they had them for the last 10 years though. Like, this isn't a new thing. I mean, I remember when I was at one of the big guys, they were talking about this literally 10 years ago. And it's just, digitization. Someone saying, I think it's Adam. I can't tell a long time. Yeah, Adam. Digitization is real, 100%. Like, we're getting there and on and on. But I'm talking about often how it's used. And it's not this new thing that just showed up. It's been something we've been going down the road for a long time, and there's still more road to go down. And it's, you know, it's good.
So, Jamin, you got a question, and you got a question. Are you going to cut margins to provide automation and transparency to rates from these digital brokers?
What does that mean? Are you going to cut margins?
Well, I think margin compression. I mean, it's already been coming, and I think it will even get compressed more as there's transparency. I mean, you can look at. Oh, go ahead. But then it's still vague. It's still vague. Well, by margin compression.
Yeah.
Visibility. So, you know, fewer people touching a load, and just essentially, just runs through a system.
But the technology costs a ton of money. Software developers.
Relative to people and people lawsuits and people inefficiencies and lack of consistency. No, the technology is cheap. People are so inconsistent. Technology doesn't have sick days, the same amount of sick days
JD,
that I have.
some of your Boda box, JD.
Or vacation time.
You got people in the comments saying, no, Adam Robinson just said, Jamin is giving me life. Like, Jamin, people are blowing up over here.
That
Like,
is
they're
true.
loving you.
Yeah.
Is Jamin also Karen? Yes. Jamin,
Yes.
are you giving me life?
I'm not, but there's some,
Okay.
maybe my water spiked.
So
But it
Jamin,
shows it's a good
explain to
topic.
me what they mean by this transparency, compressing margins. Can you dumb it down for me and just
So one, everything's so vague, right? And this is where I think we've talked about with Ron, just saying everything across the board, each commodity is so different, right? So just taking the super vague term, it's like what happens in, we've seen it happen with car sales or financial services. Hey, you do this trade with us, you pay $10. Like, it's just straight up. Like, everything's just running more automated, runs through there. I know what I pay for a trade. Whereas, in past years, it was a little more convoluted, right? Or a percentage, it wasn't as crystal clear. And now it has to be by nature of me as a consumer. That's how I think now. And so I do think, does it get to the same level as that? I don't know. I'd be curious what other people would think, but margin compression, super real. Again, I'm talking generic freight and mostly like truckload, right? And the middle mile stuff. The days of 20% rips and $1,000 rips on a Friday afternoon on just a simple middle mile truckload. I think those days are gone, and we've been.
But Jamin, what have people been talking about with this weekend coming up, Jamin? Like, people were saying that this could be a tough weekend for brokerages. What does that mean because of the holiday on Monday and Lowe's trying to get what does that mean?
No.
I keep hearing this. I keep seeing it on LinkedIn. Oh, it's going to be hard for brokers this weekend. Like, what does that mean, Jamin?
Well, Ron actually probably has a better perspective, but on this as being the shipper, sometimes on the weekend, right? It actually comes down to this level, and this is not data driven. This is just how I've always felt. The people side of it, stuff gets squirrely around a holiday. Even the driver's like, oh, I wasn't going to go on that trip with my family. Now I will. Like, I just always had more dropped loads when it came around a holiday or a good weather time. So again, I don't know if that vetted out the data overall, but that's definitely what it felt like to me on the human level.
Chris Jolly says if you're playing the spot, that's a good
one. That's right, Jolly.
Yeah, that's Jolly summed it up right there. Boom. I agree. So, it will, guys are going to try to be like, hey, look, make me leave my couch this weekend. I'm like on the fence. I'm fine if I stay home. I'm fine if I go run this load for you. Or now, playing the spot, and this is a call out, and Cassandra, I know you like this, and I feel bad, I can't remember who posted it. When you got those short 500-mile runs, refrigerated load, and you've been ripping on the spot market, and you give it to a guy on a Friday, and it's not going to deliver till Tuesday, like, knock on wood, best of luck.
Yeah.
That is something to look out for.
Hey, Ron,
for sure.
when do most shipments get stolen?
Holidays.
Bad decisions on Fridays. Bad
Holidays.
Fridays.
So then, do you not ship around holidays? What do you do to mitigate?
Oh, no, they ship.
Oh, no, you ship the hell out of things. I've got a much different perspective, I think, than most of my peers. I think you recognize that you're going to be paying a lot. I think you're much better suited paying a percentage higher when it's low to carry it through the holidays, because you're carrying with hopefully the same carriers who won't say, get me off my couch. It's because you got me off my couch in February and March when I needed you to. So I'm going to take care of you in May and June when you might need my help. I've always been a proponent of that's a much better way to do it.
Yep.
Stabilizes prices. Yeah.
I hope people are listening to you other shippers. And Chris Jolly, you just said another thing that sang to my heart, which will to Ron's heart as well, which is if you, the shipment, you need to know where it's stored, address, location, yard details, writing.
Hell yeah.
Gold.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm going to challenge that because you don't have a lot of people providing that information.
But you have to do, if you're a broker, you have to make sure the carrier provides that information, and then you have to confirm it on Google because these yards aren't, you can't, like, they're not real yards.
But brokers aren't doing that, Cassandra. Brokers are just trying to make 400%. That's all they're caring about is 400% profit.
You can't say all brokers.
Chris Jolly just said it, and I know personally know brokers that are doing it because I taught them to do it. So some are.
Yeah. We can't do the just they all generalizations.
Yeah.
Hey, that's what people think, man. Brokers all suck. Brokers only give low lows. Brokers only
No.
give poor rates. Brokers don't take care of carriers.
Brokers are
Ron's a piece of Ron's a piece of shit because he's a poor shipper and no one likes to work with him. That's what people are saying, man. We gotta live up to this hype, man. The brokers just.
But I do
suck.
think I would challenge us though at a certain point to kind of.
Ryan's laughing. He's turning into Karen.
I would challenge us though, right? 'Cause we've already
You
said
need
like
to speak
those
to a
who-
manager.
Yeah. sir, this is a Wendy's, sir. I think we've already established those who are on, joining this, participating, and we're learning from. We're not those people.
We are
JD.
not.
So I think I'm at least going to challenge myself. We don't need to keep pushing that narrative forward. I think we could get past. I think it's nice we call it out, we identify it, but the more we talk about it and give it life, we're just pushing it forward and moving back to a tired conversation. And I think missing an opportunity to spend the time and energy and effort to advance. Like, let's get past it. Like, I'm bored of that, right? Like, every business, every industry, some people suck, some people are good. Like, it's not wildly complicated.
I just posted that last night. I just want people to know I'm doing this
Actually,
to juice it.
JD, your post last night, I got emotional with your post last night. It sang to me. What did it? Can you tell people what it said? Because it really just hit me hard.
Oh man. So yesterday I
Maybe
was.
I shouldn't have asked that question.
No, you're good, because yesterday I was sitting there and I was looking around and kind of dealing with the feedback that we've had. And I literally said this is exactly what the post says. Stop being so hard on yourself. Everyone is still growing and becoming. When you realize that even the person you look up to is still becoming a better version of themselves, you'll have more patience with your own growth. There was a time that the person you looked up to wasn't who they were. They became it. Give yourself time to develop and grow. Breathe. What are some things you do to develop and grow yourself? And that post came from realizing that a lot of people out here are damaging their own self-esteem by putting unnecessary pressure on themselves by looking at people on LinkedIn, on Facebook, that are only showing you their highlight reel. They're not telling you how much they suck or how many times they failed or how many times they fall down or how many times they don't get it right. Right now you can look at Ron, Cassandra, Jamin, and myself and say, oh, these guys are so successful. That's great, and we appreciate that. But what you don't see are the years of failure, of the years of mistakes, of the years that Ron had no clue what the hell shipping was, and he had to figure it out, and he's still getting better to this day. He just admitted it on the call, that he was on a phone call with someone that taught him something new. He's still growing. He's still becoming better. Stop being so hard on yourself. And Chandler out there, the wand still has power, goddammit. So don't say it doesn't.
Guys, I will tell you that this is a good time. By the way, Vitali says that it's the Instagram effect.
Yeah, I think it's well said.
So I'll tell you folks what happened after this week. So we went live every day this week, and I thought that we kind of blew it out of the water. We had I'll post on Monday our stats, even though I'm not so good at the stats. I just focus on what's the feedback and what's the engagement when we're live, and then what's the feedback after post engagement. But I'll post the stats. They're really fucking good.
Yes, they were.
I think we all knew that. But I'll tell you that the shipper show seemed to be the most popular, and a lot of people said that they were just simply blown away. And I think it was because no one's ever sat down, from both directions, no one's ever sat down and heard the shippers and been able to ask questions. And then the flip. And I think, Ron, that's why you're constantly every Friday on here for hours. We have to keep you back on because we just don't know much. We just don't know about your world. And you're like Doug Wagner, you're curious. So you're in here learning too. So, but this week, and then we had the carrier show, which to me signaled a very big difference between an executive and a big carrier and a carrier with a lot of support. And then all these drivers, Ingrids. So I need Madtropolis to bring me more Ingrids. I have tons of big carriers coming out my ears, but I don't have the Ingrids and the Antonias and all their friends. So I need that more. If you guys want to have a voice on this show, you have to
participate.
Ron, how did you, I'm picking on you a little bit because I love your wealth of knowledge. How did you become who you are? what did you do over the years to learn and to grow? And, because I don't think people understand how much failure was involved in your growth. So what did you do to grow past your failures, grow past your mistakes, and to always continually learn? What did that look like?
Yeah, I think I was extremely lucky, and that when I got out of the military, it was post first Gulf War, because I'm that old. Nestle was looking for young leaders specifically from the military so that they could groom, and they grew us in a very specific. It was a petri dish, for lack of a better term. They called it the young leaders. And they wanted us to quote unquote build the house, and what that meant was, as a young leader, I was in my early 20s. You could come into either manufacturing or logistics or quality control, engineering, any one of the disciplines that it takes to run a factory, but they had a long-term vision, and this is a 20-year vision, which I still applaud them for, that they thought that the 24-year-old military leader in 20 years is going to be my 45-year-old director or vice president of supply chain. And I don't want to be, and I apologize to anybody who's on the panel or on the call, I don't want to be Pepsi or Coke or ADI. And if you're looking at food and beverage, if you talk to, and this is probably really appropriate for you guys, if you talk to a director or vice president of transportation in those kind of companies, that's all they've done for their entire career. That's what they know. That's how they operate. That's just all the specificities of their career are tied to that one function. Nestle at the time said, we're not going to be that. We're going to make sure that when you are 45 and you're a director or a vice president of supply chain, you know supply chain. So you've done time in these functions. More importantly, if you agreed at the time that, yeah, you want to enter this program, we are going to purposely put you into positions of leadership that you quite potentially are going to fail at because you don't know what the hell you're doing. The only way you're going to be successful is figure out what the hell you're doing. So for me, for my career, I started off in frontline supervisor of a manufacturing line, and then I had to learn maintenance and quality assurance, and I put time in both of those. Then I went to inventory control. I, no lie, ended up getting shipped to Maine to help with a transportation issue. I know nothing about transportation at the time, but I'm good at customer service. Spent 2 months up there, got drunk in a bar with a guy that I didn't know who he was. This is truth. Got drunk with a guy, and this is pre-internet, so you couldn't go and look at his LinkedIn profile. It was a guy. I get home to Dallas, and my plant manager says, do you remember getting drunk in a bar last Friday in Maine? And I'm thinking, oh, shit. He goes, yeah, that guy's actually director of supply chain for all of Maine, and they want you to move up there and run transportation and customer service. And
what part of Maine?
I don't know. Oh, Portland, Maine. It was gorgeous. I was like, I don't know shit about. No, that's much later.
No, you got people in the comments asking.
Just saying, that's still buzzing around.
No, people in the comments asking if it was the wheelchair.
No, folks did not hire me. So, so I don't know about transportation and customer service, but this director I talked to understood with what I was talking about, trying to make sure we solved the problem. So I went up there. And then I go to Florida to run logistics, but then I go to Canada to run manufacturing. And I did that in 2 different places, came to Cal. So that exposure created for me a path that if you wanted to be successful, you had to be curious. And if you were curious, the only way you were going to learn is by talking to people that were doing it, which meant for me, you know, if I'm going to understand transportation, yeah, I can talk to the director of transportation in Greenwich, Connecticut, or I can get in the truck with the guys from me that drive and understand what it actually takes to run a route or to run a load to Vegas at 2 a.m. and deal with shitty receivers and understand what that's all about. So part of it is I am naturally curious, just the way I am, but I absolutely will never take away from the fact that I happen to get involved with an organization that rewarded curiosity and they rewarded it professionally. And I got to do, and that's where, you know, my boss at Monster was also one of my bosses at Nestle, which is how I got to Monster, because he needed someone that was going to be curious about different aspects of that business.
Yep,
and,
you hit it right.
you know, Cassandra knows, because I've had the speech, people have asked how I got away with doing what I did at Monster with the carrier co-op. And I'm not kidding. The board actually told me if I fuck it up, I'm getting fired, but they let me do it. So it's one thing to say, yeah, your ass is on the line. It's another thing to say your ass on the line, but go ahead and do it. And Monster Energy let me do that. So that's where it's one thing to be curious. It's another thing to be part of an organization that rewards curiosity. And if you're a curious person and your company isn't rewarding curiosity, maybe you should be looking for a different company, or you should be doing it for yourself.
Good job.
You know what's
Ooh,
interesting,
I
you guys, is
love
some of our
that.
guests, like you can tell, I do view curiosity as like a major leader characteristic. And
Yeah.
often our guests are the curious ones. Like, why really did Doug Wagner come on last Friday? He had nothing to gain.
Up to.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then many of you don't know that he went on happy hour with us too
Yes, he
after
did.
that. So
That's awesome.
he wants to know what the movement is doing. And same thing with Brad Jacobs. Brad Jacobs is joining us too. We're just nailing down his busy calendar, but Brad Jacobs responds to every message because he's curious. Ron, I honestly, sometimes I'm like, we're really lucky to have you because I don't know what you're getting out of this. It's
Well, I think what I'm learning from those leaders you mentioned and Ron and others that join us, spend a lot of time and are curious, like that reminds me this, we talk about the world we came up, it's ever evolving. So if you shut down that curiosity, you're now dying, might be extreme. I don't know how to say it, but you're essentially dying. You're not growing.
Wow, Jamin, that's
So this is ever evolving. So I think what I'm really picking up from these different leaders and like what Ron was just talking about, be involved in that evolution. Keep, be part of it and definitely be listening. And so that's what I'm hoping to emulate.
So we're dropping below our threshold. So we're at about 155 people combined with all social media and Zoom. So usually I think that's our margin we start cutting off. That's how we decide when we're going to cut off. I have a feeling it's because holiday weekend. But I want to challenge, because I have a feeling that the majority of the people who are on all the social media and Zoom, there are our core group of Madtropolis.
Yes.
And I want to challenge you guys because there's going to be some big changes going on.
You're going to tell them?
No.
Oh, I was about to say, you about to tell them like now? Like, don't do it.
I'm going to continue to challenge them because we're not there yet. I felt the difference between carriers and drivers. I need more drivers. I need people to start sending me experienced Ingrids. We need lots of Ingrids in our area. We're lacking on that. I saw it. I felt it in my bones. So we need that from an educational perspective at Madtropolis. I feel like we're super good on shippers. I have a bunch lined up next week. I'm hoping you'll lead the conversation again. I'm feeling like we're solid with brokers. Jamin, that's your neck of the woods.
Yeah, I think we could challenge Madtropolis ourselves on brokers and how we divide that up right. We almost have two. There's the freight tech piece of it and how that affects brokers, and then the more traditional brokers. So I think similar to how we're looking at the difference in drivers versus like just a carrier type of deal, I think we'll have to nuance that a little bit and make sure we get representation from both.
Tyler Harden is saying we need to get into the driver Facebook groups in order for us to get some folks.
I struggle with Facebook. I'm too pretty for Facebook. It'll beat me up.
Yeah, but think about it. Facebook, this is terrible. I'm over 50, so I can say it. Facebook is for grandparents. What's your average driver's age?
No, you're spot on. The community.
They're all there.
Yeah,
they're my age.
No, they're not. They're older than you, Ron, and they're all they're all there, and we're in them, right? You got Craig Bliss's pages. Like I'm in like 20 of those Facebook groups.
Amanda Miller says it's a slippery slope if we head down Facebook.
I agree. I do not like Facebook only because it's so negative, and that's what Wayne was getting at today. When he posted that, it is the most negative place I've ever been.
You mentioned Craig though. He's a positive guy, and so maybe we can ask him for some tips too of how to work with that community and not not get dragged into that.
We're proving at Madtropolis we can find our own. We don't need to stick with the stagnant. Like when you fill out my surveys and I ask you who should speak, I don't want the fucking people who already have a microphone on Facebook. I don't want people at FreightWaves. I love FreightWaves. We all know that. But I want people who are new and have ideas, and they're not new to our world. They're just new voice, right? Like Ron gave me a list of all the brokers and allegedly their carrier too. But
be nice.
Brokers is still broker. All the brokers that he worked with, that he was like, these 5 people did amazing. Great. I'm challenging brokers and carriers to tell me who their shippers are that they're amazing. Same with maintenance, JD. Why aren't you bringing maintenance people to us?
I got
Why
every
am I
maintenance.
bringing you Schneider
No,
people?
no, you're not. You chose him because that's your personal friend. I could bring you every maintenance person that you want to bring on the show. So if you want to call me out, just make sure you know every top maintenance professional, whether it be towing,
Karen.
mobile repair, diagnostic, they are in my phone right now. You tell me when, where,
I
what
do.
time,
I want
and
them
I
to
will
join
make
us.
it
They're
happen.
interesting. They've got such an interesting perspective. So you
Yes.
guys, Madtropolis is changing. There's a lot going on. There are a lot of changes next week and the week after. But the thing is like JD said, it is your show. So if you don't put into it and you don't send
Yes.
people our way and you don't speak as well, like a lot of people in the survey, there were such amazing ideas and the survey was so beneficial. Every time I send out the surveys, I come up with all these great ideas. But then there are some people that say, Cassandra, we don't, not everybody's getting a voice. And I'm like, dude, raise your fucking hand on Zoom.
Yeah.
I dig it. And by the way, Jonathan Trimble just said TikTok. I don't know if he was joking or not, and I'm not kidding. There actually is a pretty big community of drivers I follow on there that post cool stuff as they're driving around. You get to follow along with them. And
There are a lot of police officers on TikTok, by the way.
yeah.
Here's the thing, guys. The reason why we're asking you, Madtropolis, we need you guys to give us brokers, carriers, shippers that you want to see. The reason being isn't because we don't have the connections. We're a pretty connected group.
Yes.
The reason is that we want to know the people that you talk to that are in your different associations and silos that you trust, that are your soundboards, that we can give a voice to so that we can help everyone learn something that maybe they didn't know. I go back to Ron saying it earlier on the show. He learned from somebody today that is technically outside of his typical sphere. You can learn from people, and we're asking you to bring those people to us so we can put them on the show and give you exposure to zero to a million.
Find gems.
Yes, let's do it.
We already are finding gems. Also, I have one thing to say about everybody who pushed back on me and said that drivers will not like electronic bill ladings and they don't like the apps and they're going to tell you go F off, Cassandra. I'm seeing all these messages about drivers liking TikTok.
Yeah, that's another narrative like with brokers. Drivers maybe traditionally have been slow to adopt different things, but it's not.
They want to, they'll adopt it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not just because they're not tech savvy. A lot of times we haven't built a good case for them.
I agree. We haven't convinced them. We will. We'll get there. So anybody have any closing thoughts? Ron, do you have any closing thoughts? You can say no too. You're drinking. Oh,
no, it's been a great week. And no, actually, the only closing thought I have is actually, I appreciate the amount of people that messaged Dan Hatcher and myself today when I put that post up today. That shows me that this group is working the way you intended it. That you can have somebody look at something very specifically, identify the need and say, hey, I can help. I had a couple different conversations with different people. That's the way this industry should work. And this platform is going to make things better. It might be hell to get it there, but it will make it better.
It will be hell to get it there. And the thing is that those of you who are not part of the Madtropolis group on LinkedIn,
go join
and post things on it. If you guys saw, Doug Wagner was even posting over the weekend, thanks to
yes,
JD.
he was.
Yeah.
But I want you guys to do things like what Ron is doing, where he's reaching out to the Madtropolis community and he's looking for those experts. Because the more experts we get in one spot, the better we are as a community.
But don't clog up Ron's inbox trying to sell shit to him. Like, don't be that person. Like, we're giving you access to people.
He's laughing.
He's laughing because that stuff gets annoying. Don't be that person. That is not what Madtropolis is about.
But I will tell you, though, we do want the good brokers, the good carriers, good maintenance people. We want them all in our Madtropolis so that we can all refer each other. And is Cassandra heading toward a direction of an association? Abso-fucking-lutely.
Say what?
An exclusive one, not wide open to anybody and their mother who's going to use some logo. An exclusive one. So that if Ron has if he has a friend that really needs a good group of carriers and brokers, he knows where to go. And they've already been vetted and everything's done. So I'll leave it at that. Jamin, JD, anything last? I'm scared to ask JD if there's any final remarks.
The only thing I'm going to say is be on the lookout for the maintenance show that will be created. Tyler Harden, Matthew Leffler will be leading that with Cassandra or whoever else is jumping on that show. We're going to expose you guys to everything in the supply chain that makes up transportation, logistics, and freight. Done.
Jamin?
Mine's gonna be a little maybe cheese dickish, but like I just feel refreshed. I was a little tired today hearing Ron talk about leadership and just these comments and like kind of getting my head around, what we can talk about next week and things. I'm refreshed. Yeah, that's all I got.
You guys, White Claw is not very good.
I've never had it. It's super popular though.
No, you're not drunk enough to drink it. You're not drunk
Disgusting.
enough. You're not drunk enough to drink it. You drink White Claw after you're already drunk.
Oh.
But that's not like Ron.
That's like kissing the ugly girl after you're already drunk. Nobody wants to be that guy.
Oh,
You
my
cover your
God.
eyes, but it's true. That's
It's
called
true.
beer goggles. Oh God, she was
Is
ugly.
this a Shallow Hal moment? Is this Shallow Hal all over?
Maybe.
But don't drink White Claw, you guys.
I've been that ugly guy.
Stick with Spotted Cow if you can. All right, thanks, guys. We will see you guys. I think we all have a surprise on Monday. I'm just saying.
Yes.
Have a great weekend, everybody, and don't get too drunk.
Be safe, everybody.
Put the wine.